Hello and welcome back to the podcast. So, today I want to talk about subliminal messaging, negative messaging, discernment, and your awareness of all of these things. So, I know I've talked a lot about subliminal messaging in the past. Obviously, I use subliminals in the Manifest It Now app, but I want to give some practical applications of things that I really didn't even think about, but are in our everyday life that have these subliminal messages, and or just things that might be harming your overall vibration and well-being that you don't even realize. And as we move into this new era where people are awakening, people are becoming more conscious and more aware of just everything that is going on in your life, in the world. And if you know, you know, like if you have been feeling like you're highly aware of people that just aren't aligned with you, people who are negative, and it's almost like you're repulsed. It's like you just can't be around that anymore. You're kind of seeing things for what they really are. That is a sign that you are, going through this journey, and it's really hard when there's people and things that are not up to speed with what you're going through. And one of the things that made me want to talk about this today was I came across, I think it was on TikTok. There's all of these parenting magazines and parent groups and speech therapists that are talking about cocoa melon. Okay, so I have young kids. We went through the whole cocoa melon phase. And if you're not a parent of young kids and you don't know what cocoa melon is, it is this cartoon where they sing songs, and it's one of those programs where even as a parent, eventually you're singing every word. You know every word of every song, as does your kid, and it gets really annoying and really repetitive. So I honestly did not think anything of it when my kids were watching it. They loved it. And I thought, okay, these are, nursery rhyme songs. They seem positive. The kids are singing and dancing along to it. It's nothing that I need to worry about. Well, now there's all of these parents that are saying that Cocomelon is causing speech delays in their children. And my children both have speech delays to where we are actually getting into speech therapy. And so that kind of perked up my attention, and I started, looking into it. And it's one of those things where no one wants to really pinpoint it. So who knows if Cocomelon is to blame or not, but that basically screen time in general, any screen time can be harmful, especially for really young kids, like toddler age. But it's the fast-paced sequences in particular that can be troublesome. And so when you have a program like that that is highly repetitive, and then they're coupling it with catchy rhymes, catchy rhythms, it sucks you in, and it almost makes you like a zombie. Like it puts you kind of in that hypnotic state. And it clicked with me when I heard that, oh my God, this is basically like one big subliminal messaging. Because what do I do with the subliminals? Well, number one, you have repetition. And number two, you pair it with music and theta waves, which puts you in sort of this hypnotic state where you're just taking in the information. And I thought, oh my God, like that is basically what this program is doing. And a lot of them, like it's not just this one. And that's why after a couple of days, even the parents who aren't even watching the show, who are doing whatever they're doing, cleaning the house, cooking lunch, whatever in the background, can recite every single word of every single song, right? Because it is, you're like subliminally embedding this into your subconscious, which is pretty crazy. So I saw that and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is wild. So I started like looking at what else, because I know from working in the corporate world, companies use this in their advertising, in, commercials and things like that. But what else is being put right in front of us that we are consciously unaware of, but our subconscious is taking in? And it's really interesting because I can tell in talking to someone whether or not they watch the news, like the regular, mainstream news or not. Because if they do, anything that's going on is going to be laced with fear, very fearful. And this is done on purpose because fear gets you to tune in longer. It gets more ratings because people are on the edge of their seat, worried, and want more information. And there's things like that happening left and right. And so the reason I wanted to talk about it is because we've been on this, mode of talking about this age of Aquarius, this new era. And as we're moving into that, there's going to be more and more and more things that you all of a sudden become aware of. That all of a sudden you're just like, how did I never see this before? Or you just get a feeling like something's off. And this is one of those things for me this week is like, I know about subliminal messaging, I know it's used, but the depth of it, it's just like I'm ultra aware of everything. And so, okay, children's programming, there's the first thing that I looked at. Next is I came across the Las Vegas sphere on TikTok. So you can go on TikTok and just type in Las Vegas sphere and you'll see it. But basically, people took a video of it, but then slowed it down and like watched it again and saw that there were all of these subliminal messages that were being broadcasted on this sphere that are kind of messed up. And so it's like all these different words that in a split second would flash on the sphere to where it happens so fast, your conscious mind isn't going to notice it, but your subconscious is. And what's really tricky is there's like normal words, good words, like words you wouldn't think anything of, like mom. Um, what were some of them? Creativity, like things like that. But then in between those words were words that were things that would elicit like fear and a feeling of unease. So, in between a lot of those words, there were things like everything you know is wrong, autopsy, cult, sugar, lies, the future is a fantasy, um, social media is the antichrist, cringe, trash, your hatred, watch more TV, you're a victim of your parents, gaslighting, crack, hellscape, woke, bomb. So, like all of these words that can have very negative, uneasy feelings, like just reading that, it's like, and that was just a small portion of it. Like this went on for a while. And so it's like, what is happening? And how often is that happening? Was that just some random social experiment? Was that to get everyone's attention on subliminal messaging? Or was it some kind of, negative intention that someone put out there? I don't know, but it got my attention and it made me realize like we have to really be conscientious of what we're taking in, who we're around, um, and everything, whether it's what we're watching, what social media accounts we're looking through, what people we're hanging out with, what music we're listening to. And it reminds me of this Jake Ducey quote that I love that says, brainwash yourself before the world brainwashes you. And it's so true. If you are not actively putting positive information into your subconscious, if you're not actively focusing on things that make you feel good, then you're going to be on what I call default mode, where you're going to go off of things that you see in everyday life, the general vibe of people of the world. And it's usually not that great. And that's why everyone's sort of in this zombie-like state, kind of living in mediocrity, always wanting more, always stressed, always fearful, always feeling, blah. That is why. And so it's like so important to get super intentional. And one way to combat that is with subliminals, positive subliminals that you are intentionally taking on to counter all of this shit that we're getting thrown at us every single day on all these different platforms. So the next thing that I looked into was music. And there are so many different studies and articles that will talk about this. I'm just going to pull up one. So this is from the Smithsonian, and they talk about how there were researchers that wanted to look at the impact that music is having on our well-being. And I think what really got my attention with this particular study is they were looking at songs from the 1970s all the way to 2020. And I have always been super drawn to music from the 70s, the 60s, even stuff from the 50s. And it's just like I listen to that and I feel good. I feel like it raises my vibration. I feel like a lot of the messaging is stuff that is deep and profound. And I just like one of the songs, for example, is like Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. The whole thing is about raising your vibe, taking in good vibrations, giving off good vibrations. It's about energy and it leaves you feeling really high vibe. And over the years, I feel like music gives me less and less of that feeling to where it almost gives me the opposite feeling where I'm either anxious or angry or afraid or whatever or depressed. And so that's where it gets really sneaky. And it's this trend that keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so what they did is they looked at all these songs from the 70s up until now over all genres. Well, not all, but like the major ones, rap, pop, country, rock, and R&B. And they looked at a pool of over 580,000 songs. They then narrowed it down to 350,000. And then they had AI take a representative sample of 12,000 songs and tried to get a good balance of like all the different genres over time, right? And what they found was that over the past 50 years, the lyrics have become more and more personal, straightforward, and charged with negative emotions. And that this has affected both society's mood and the changing landscape of like how music is enjoyed. Okay, so this is wild to me because again, back to subliminals. I always say you want to make them personal. You want to say I. Like I'm not putting out a subliminal that says like you are. I'm saying I am enough. I am fulfilled. I am happy, right? Because that is what your subconscious is going to take in as fact. And so you want the I and the am present statement. Well, if these songs are becoming more and more personal, and what they mean by that is it's using the word I in statements like I am, then you're essentially taking in affirmations subconsciously and like personally. So it's not like general, it's like your subconscious thinks that that song is about you. Even though it's not, it cannot tell the difference between reality and fantasy, and it is taking it on as though it happened to you. So this is why if you listen to like maybe a Lana Del Rey song or Taylor Swift and it's about a breakup, okay? You might all of a sudden feel really sad and depressed and start thinking about a relationship that ended badly or something, right? Because you're taking it on as though it's happened to you and it can put you in this like sad and depressing mood. Um, Same thing goes with songs that are like very angry, and puts you in this sort of like pissed off mood or make you subconsciously think that you are somehow a victim, which is a very dangerous, dangerous mindset to have because it's essentially the opposite of manifestation and the personal power that you have within you to create your reality. And the other thing that this study found, besides these lyrics being more personal is that they are simpler and more memorable and more repetition. Just like the Coco Melon songs, you'll hear the same lines, same phrases, the same words repeated over and over and over again. And so, what is that? That's subliminal messaging. That is feeding your subconscious mind. And it has gotten that way more and more and more. From the 70s till now, there is more repetition, more personalization, more simpler content. We're not going deep here. It's like surface level, really simple words, easy to process. And then you combine that with a catchy rhythm. Well, now you're not only affecting your subconscious, you're affecting your vibration and your emotions, right? And think about when you hear a song from like when you were in high school, for example, and all of a sudden, in a split second, you're brought back to your 16-year-old self and you feel all the things you were feeling at the time and you have these vivid memories. That is all associated with this song that you heard in a split second. Like that is how powerful this is. And so, all the more reason why you want to be really conscientious of what you're listening to and what you're taking in and what your kids are taking in. And the end of the study, basically, when they looked at all of these, they saw that as the songs have shifted towards personal messaging and negative expressions, they saw that it also has influenced listeners' mental well-being, reinforcing particular emotional states. So again, it's like if you're going through a bad breakup and then you go and listen to a bunch of songs about a bad breakup, it's enforcing that state and it's going to push you deeper and deeper into this depression, right? Or anger or whatever. And if you're like rolling your eyes when you're thinking about this, that's fine. Like I was that way for a very long time. I will challenge you to take your favorite artist and just go and look up the lyrics for the songs that you're listening to on a regular basis or that your kids are listening to on a regular basis. And if you feel a-okay and you're like, yeah, this is great, perfect. But if you're like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know that was in there, then like pay attention, like bring awareness to that and ask yourself, is this a message that I want my subconscious or my kids' subconscious to take on as their own belief and their own feeling? And if the answer is no, then don't listen to it. Like this is take it or leave it, but that is where I'm at right now, where I want to fully be aware of like what I'm taking in and avoid all this negative, toxic stuff as much as possible. So, um, I don't know. I just wanted to share that part of it so that you can bring awareness to it and kind of curate what you're listening to. For me, like I have my whole entire high vibe playlist. It's like all songs from the 70s. And it's funny because I sent it to a couple of my friends who were going through, health issues, and those were the songs that I chose. And then I came across an article after the fact that looked at like all the different songs over the past 50 years or so, and they made a list of the most high vibrational songs that leave you feeling really good, really positive, really high vibe. And most of those songs were on there. And so it's pretty cool to just see like, okay, my feeling was like these songs are great for healing. They're great for putting you in a positive mindset. And then they actually studied it and were like, yeah, it actually has a noticeable, statistically significant difference in your emotions and your mindset. All right, so now let's get into what you can do to combat that, right? So, all right. Sorry, I was looking up, I was looking something up. Okay, so what you can do to combat that is number one, like I said, bring awareness to what you're listening to, what your kids are listening to, and trust your feeling on it. Like, how do you feel when you listen to this song? Does it leave you feeling really good or does it leave you feeling like shit? And then number two, looking up the lyrics. And when you're reading them, it's not like looking at them as a story or whatever. Look at it as you would look at affirmations that you're saying to yourself. Do you want this to be an affirmation? If yes, then keep listening to it. If no, then I would think twice about it because your subconscious is taking it in as an affirmation. The second part is using positive subliminals to counter that. So, the subconscious, the only way to shift your negative beliefs and to really change, especially those core beliefs that were built in the first 7 years of life, is through repetition. So, again, it's like that is why repetition is used so much in music and TV because it hooks people. It hooks people. It gets you to tune in. And so it's very important, and it's the only way to reprogram your subconscious mind. Because you got to think, if you've had a certain belief for decades, you're not going to just say an affirmation one time and all of a sudden that belief's going to disappear, right? Like you need repetition. You need to hear it over and over and over and over again in order for that change to occur. So this is where positive subliminals come in. So you can make your own. You can get them from someone you trust. But again, when you're listening to a subliminal, especially if you're getting it from someone you don't know, which I don't recommend, like if you just go on YouTube and type in a subliminal, um, pay attention because if you feel any type of fear or you just don't feel easy about it, like something's not right, stop listening to it because who knows what they're putting in it. So in the Manifest It Now app, right? Like I've got that subliminal library, and that's why when you scroll down, you'll see every single message that's embedded subliminally. That way you have transparency. That way you know exactly what your subconscious is taking in, and you can decide whether or not you want it to run on those beliefs. So I created a high vibe subliminal. So this is like a quick subliminal that should get you in that high vibe state pretty quickly. So that way, like let's say you I don't know, you were watching something that left you feeling like very anxious, or you listened to something and you're like, ugh, like I just feel like I programmed my subconscious in a negative way. You can listen to this. It's a few minutes long, and it's going to get you back in that high vibrational state and counter all of those messages you were getting. Because with the subliminals that I make, I'm speeding up and looping the affirmations to where you're getting hundreds of them, so you have that repetition to combat all of the negative stuff that we're getting on default every single day. So that's what I recommend. The new one I'm putting in the Manifest It Now app, so you can get it there or you can make your own, but just start bringing awareness to what you're taking in and figure out ways in which you can counter that because it's something that I feel like we maybe eventually, we'll be able to completely avoid as we raise our consciousness and like collectively go through this. But in the meantime, you're going to be exposed to stuff every day, just like the Jake Juicy quote, brainwash yourself before the world brainwashes you. You're being brainwashed by the outside world. And so it's really important to start getting intentional about what you want to brainwash yourself with. And how has all of those beliefs that you've been brainwashed on default been serving you? And if it's not good, then start with subliminals. And they're so easy. You just literally plug in your headphones and listen. You can listen to it while you're working. You can listen to it on your commute. You can listen to it while you're sleeping. And that's a question I get all the time. People are like, do I have to be asleep? Do I have to be meditating? Do I have to do a visualization or a journaling exercise while I'm listening? The answer is no. The less your conscious mind is involved, the better, because the more your conscious mind is involved, um, the more it's going to get in the way, right? Because your conscious mind has this like bullshit meter. So if you're listening to a subliminal saying that, you're a multimillionaire, money comes to you easily, your conscious mind's going to be like, no, it doesn't. that's not true. And it kind of gets in the way. So let your subconscious do all the hard work. All you have to do is hit play. And I tell people too, especially those that are skeptical, because I'm the type like I want to know the science of it. I am skeptical to a certain point. And so I treat everything like a science experiment. So listen to it and keep track, maybe write in a journal every day of like how you're feeling, especially around the area the subliminals focused on. See how you feel after a week. See how you feel after a month. Usually, people will tell me within a couple days, they feel drastically different. And it's like, imagine how you'll feel a month from now or a year from now if you're taking in all these positive messages. And that's why it's so transformational and it's so easy. It doesn't take any additional time. You can stack this with another habit. You can listen to it while you're driving. You can listen to it while you're brushing your teeth. Like it is not something that requires any additional time or work on your part other than pressing play. So I've been doing them now for a couple years. I think it's a huge reason why I am so hyper aware of everything, why I've been able to manifest so much, why a lot of limiting beliefs don't ever really stop me from taking action. It can have really profound impacts pretty quickly. So that's my recommendation. And I would love to hear from you guys if you've come across anything like the Cocomelon example or the Las Vegas sphere. I'm just so fascinated by this stuff. So if you have any stories or anything you've come across with subliminal messaging, the best way to get a hold of me is to DM me on Instagram at Law of Attraction Tribe. I check all of my messages. So let me know if you've come across any of these or any other recent articles having to do with subliminal messaging because I eat this stuff up. I love it and I find it so fascinating. So I hope this helped and hope it didn't freak you out. That's not my intention at all. It's just to bring awareness because when you have awareness, you can make big changes. That's when you have power for change. So let me know, reach out, and I will see you back here on Thursday.